Well, today is a short psalm. We'll be in Psalm 20, and this is another beautiful psalm. May the Lord answer you in the day of trouble. And remember, we're looking at this from a Christ-centered perspective and a kingdom-centered perspective. May the Lord answer you in the day of trouble. May the name of the God of Jacob set you securely on high. These were prayers. May he send you help from the sanctuary and support you from Zion. And may he remember all your meal offerings and find your burnt offering acceptable. May he grant you your heart's desire and fulfill all your counsel. We will sing for joy over your victory, and in the name of our God we will set up banners. May the Lord fulfill your petitions. So those are the first 5 verses of Psalm 20. Now I want us to remember something. We have been particularly affected by the individualism, and we give God thanks for the Reformation, but not everything great came out of the Reformation, and certainly not everything great came out of the Enlightenment. One of the things that started happening with the Reformation, which I believe the negative aspects of the Reformation, some people say, well, what are you saying? There's some negative aspects of the Reformation. Yeah, there was this inclination toward individualism, breaking away so much from the body. I'm not even necessarily saying that the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, was the body at that time. But there was a mindset that said, let's break away from the church and get back to just our own individualistic interpretation of the scripture, walk of life, and so forth. And so that it started to actually look at the body with contempt almost, no necessity. Paul is very clear that we are members of the body. And so what ends up happening is there's this subsequent interpretation of scriptures that should be more corporate. We interpret them on an individual level, a narcissistic level. Again, that's not to say that the beautiful doctrines of grace, which I think were going along all the way since the time of Christ, but they were underground, and the church oftentimes is underground. But the rebirth of the doctrines of grace, it was an important thing, but, bad things come along with it too. And so when he says here, may he grant you your heart's desire, it's very easy for us to look at that in an individual context, more of a self-centered, selfish context. And so what is the heart's desire? These are messianic psalms. These are not individualistic psalms. These are not for us to freely interpret. Because what ends up happening on the one side can be disappointment, because we can look at this and say, oh, he's going to grant me my desire. I want to pay off my mortgage within 3 years, and then you end up going bankrupt. So that would be a way that we might disappoint ourselves by interpreting this individualistically, okay? May he fulfill all your counsel. Well, what if the heart's desire here might be Christ, or the desire of the church for salvation, his people? We will sing for joy over your victory. So that kind of puts it in context. May he grant you your heart's desire, that is, this is the desire of Christ, and fulfill all your counsel. He shall save his people from their sins. We, the church, will sing for joy over your victory. That is, his counsel and his heart's desire was to gain victory over the hearts of his enemies, subdue them, and bring them to himself. That's the victory. And he says, may the Lord fulfill all your petitions. And the Lord always heard Christ. Now I know that the Lord saves his anointed. He will answer him from his holy heaven. So it does really seem to be more Christ-centered. With the saving strength of his right hand. We've talked about that many times now. The Psalms has pointed out that the right hand of the Lord is what gets him the victory, does valiantly, and that right hand is Jesus. He sat down at the right hand, Hebrews 8. Some boast in chariots, and some in horses, So that represents works-based salvation. And Israel was always trusting in other nations and trusting in her flesh and her nationality, all things that ran contrary to God's way of salvation. Come, buy wine, milk without price, sort of a thing of Isaiah 55. Your ways are not my ways. Let the wicked man forsake his way and the unrighteous man his thoughts. For my ways are higher than your thoughts. So his ways we do understand now, you see. So when we see that his ways are not our ways in Isaiah 55, well, yes, they are now. But before he says, let the wicked man forsake his ways. In other words, we want to embrace God's way of salvation, not the way of man that seems right, works salvation, self-justification. Some boast in chariots, some in horses, but we will boast in the name of the Lord our God. They have bowed down and fallen, but we have risen and stood upright. Save, O Lord, may the King answer us in the day that we call. So another wonderful and brilliant Christ-centered psalm. It's a new way of looking, and really it's not a new way. I think it's old, but I think some of us are just discovering it and having a ball, enjoying seeing Christ in the Psalms instead of looking at them from more of a narcissistic perspective, looking at them from a corporate kingdom and Christocentric perspective. Enjoy.